This morning, Sunday, June 8, 2025, Los Angeles County is under federal occupation. Overnight, 2,000 California National Guard troops were deployed across the region under direct orders from President Trump. The decision comes after days of escalating protests sparked by a wave of aggressive ICE raids earlier this week. The raids began on June 6th and targeted immigrant-heavy neighborhoods throughout LA, places like Boyle Heights, South Central, and the San Fernando Valley. Dozens, possibly over 100 people were detained. ICE agents reportedly used unmarked vans, raided parking lots, and even pulled people from sidewalks, triggering immediate outrage and mobilization across the city. Protests erupted almost instantly. What started as peaceful marches and vigils outside detention centers and city halls turned into standoffs between demonstrators and law enforcement. In neighborhoods like Paramount and Compton, federal officers clashed with crowds. There were reports of tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs being used. Some protesters responded by throwing bottles, rocks, and even Molotov cocktails. Police declared unlawful assemblies across multiple locations, and curfews were imposed in several areas last night. In response, President Trump invoked Title 10 of the U.S. Code, federalizing the National Guard and sending 2,000 troops into LA County without the consent of California's governor. Troops began arriving late Saturday night and are now stationed near ICE field offices, courthouses, and federal buildings. This is the largest military deployment to Los Angeles since the George Floyd protests in 2020, and the most controversial since 1992. Governor Gavin Newsom immediately condemned the move, calling it purposefully inflammatory and a dangerous federal overreach. He said California did not request help and that federal forces were not welcome. Mayor Karen Bass echoed the concern, stating the presence of the Guard could further escalate tensions instead of calming them. Meanwhile, Trump administration officials defended the deployment. Stephen Miller and Speaker Mike Johnson both referred to the protests as a violent insurrection and claimed federal troops were necessary to maintain order and support immigration enforcement. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed that Marines at Camp Pendleton are also on high alert, ready to move in if the situation worsens. Civil liberties groups, including the ACLU and Human Rights Watch, are calling the federal response unconstitutional. They argue that Trump's bypass of the governor's authority sets a dangerous precedent and militarizes a domestic political crisis. As of this morning, National Guard troops are now patrolling key areas. Streets are tense, but relatively calm. Protesters are regrouping and planning new demonstrations for later today. Social media is flooded with footage of armed soldiers moving through neighborhoods and helicopters circling above. This is no longer just about immigration. For many Angelenos, this is about power, control, and the right to protest. The question now is what happens next. Whether today will be a turning point toward peace or escalation. Stay informed, stay safe, and keep watching what's happening on the ground.